My dear child, let me tell you something today that your tired heart truly needs to hear. You've been carrying so much weight for so long now, and the saddest part is that most of the people around you never even noticed. They saw your smile. They saw you showing up every single day. They saw you handling responsibilities, answering questions, solving problems, and taking care of everything around you. But nobody stopped long enough to look into your eyes and ask you how you were really doing deep inside. Nobody sat beside you and said, "I see how tired you are. I see how heavy this has become for you. You do not have to pretend with me." And so you kept going. You kept pushing. You kept carrying everything alone because that was the only thing you knew how to do. But today, right here in this moment, I want you to stop. Not tomorrow. Not after you finish the next task on your list. Right now, take one slow breath and feel what is happening inside your chest. Feel the tension sitting in your shoulders. Feel the heaviness that has made its home somewhere deep behind your eyes. That tiredness you are feeling is not just physical. It goes much deeper than that. It lives in your soul. It lives in the place where you store all the things you never said out loud, all the fears you never showed anyone, all the pain you quietly tucked away, because life simply did not give you the time or the space to properly feel it. You have been living so far ahead of yourself for such a long time now. Your mind is always racing forward, always jumping into tomorrow, always rehearsing conversations that have not happened yet, always preparing for disasters that may never arrive. You lie awake at night, and your thoughts take you to every worst possible outcome your imagination can produce. You play out scenarios in your head over and over again, trying to control things that are not even real yet, trying to solve problems that have not been born yet, exhausting your spirit on futures that exist only inside your anxious mind. And by the time morning comes, you are already drained before the day has even truly begun. Every video on this channel is created with love, faith, and dedication to sharing God's Word. If these messages inspire and encourage you, you can support our mission through PayPal links in the description and pinned comment. Thank you for being part of this journey. I want you to understand something deeply today. Your heart was never designed to carry every possible version of the future, all at the same time. The human spirit was not built for that kind of endless wait. When you keep rehearsing pain that has not happened, when you keep practicing grief over losses that have not occurred, when you keep preparing emotionally for the very worst while standing inside a moment that is still okay, you are stealing peace from yourself. You are robbing today of the little gentleness it was trying to offer you, and giving that energy away to a tomorrow that may look nothing like the story fear is whispering inside your head. I am not telling you to be careless. I am not asking you to ignore wisdom or stop being responsible. I am asking you something much simpler and much harder at the same time. I am asking you to stop letting fear be the loudest voice in the room of your heart. Because fear is a liar with a very convincing voice. It takes small uncertainties and turns them into enormous mountains. It takes a tiny crack in the wall and tells you the entire building is about to fall. It whispers that peace is always temporary and that danger is always just around the corner waiting for you. And after hearing that voice for so many years, your heart has started believing it without even questioning whether it is telling the truth. Not every fearful thought deserves your trust. Not every anxious prediction is a prophecy about your future. Some of those thoughts are simply old wounds, speaking in the language of self-protection. They are the voice of every time you were hurt before, trying to make sure you never get hurt again. And while that instinct comes from a place of survival, it has been slowly stealing your ability to live with any kind of peace or openness in your heart. So take a slow breath right now. And instead of letting those fears multiply quietly in the dark corners of your mind, bring them into the light. Speak them honestly. Stop pretending you are stronger than you feel. Stop performing calmness when your insides feel like a storm. The ones who love you already sense that something is not right, and the one who made you already knows every single fear you have been carrying privately. There is no need to hide it. There is no reward for suffering in silence. Let the walls come down a little. Let yourself be honest about where your heart is afraid. And while you do that, I want you to also look at something important. Look at everything you have already survived. Think back to the seasons that once felt completely impossible to get through. Think about the nights when you were certain the pain would never stop. The mornings when you could not imagine how you would keep going. The moments when everything felt so broken that hope seemed like a ridiculous idea. You survived every single one of those moments. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are still moving forward even on the days when moving felt like the hardest thing in the world. That is not an accident. That is not simply luck or coincidence. Something carried you through every one of those storms. And that same something has not disappeared from your life now. Do not sacrifice the peace that today is offering you simply because tomorrow feels uncertain. Look around you more carefully right now. There is still beauty near you, even in the middle of difficulty. There are still quiet blessings surrounding your daily life that fear has been distracting you from noticing. The fact that you are here, listening, breathing, still searching for something better inside yourself, that is already a kind of grace that many people never find. Let your shoulders relax a little. Let your mind rest for just a few moments instead of constantly racing ahead, looking for the next danger. Tomorrow will come when it comes. And when it does, you will have the strength to face it. But you do not need to carry all of tomorrow tonight. Your heart has been running on exhaustion for longer than you probably realize. You wake up in the morning already tired, even after sleeping through the night. You move through your daily responsibilities while carrying invisible emotional weight inside your chest. Weight that nobody around you can see. Weight that you have become so skilled at hiding that sometimes even you forget how heavy it has truly become. Some days your spirit feels stretched so thin that even the smallest problem feels overwhelming, like a single extra drop of water causing an already full cup to overflow completely. And here is something I need you to hear very clearly today. This is not how you were meant to live. This constant state of anxiety, this endless emotional survival mode, this life of always bracing for the next impact, this is not the life that was intended for your heart. You were not created to simply endure your days while quietly falling apart on the inside. You were created for something that includes rest, peace, moments of genuine joy, and a spirit that feels safe enough to breathe without constant fear pressing against it. But you have normalized the exhaustion so thoroughly that peace itself has started to feel strange to you. When things are calm, part of you grows suspicious. When life gives you a quiet moment, your mind immediately starts searching for what must be wrong that you are not seeing yet. You have lived so long inside the storm that stillness feels unfamiliar and even unsafe. And I want you to stop brushing past that realization like it does not matter. Your soul has been trying to tell you for a long time now that something deeper needs attention. Something beyond just keeping up with daily life. Something that lives in the places where exhaustion has settled most heavily inside you. Sit with me honestly now and admit how tired you truly are. Not just tired in your body, although that tiredness is real and it matters. I am talking about the deeper tiredness, the emotional tiredness that comes from carrying responsibilities while feeling unseen. the mental tiredness that comes from thinking too much for too long without rest, the spiritual tiredness that comes from pretending to be okay while your inner world quietly aches for something more than survival. There are habits in your life that have slowly fed your anxiety for years without you fully recognizing them. The habit of constant comparison, measuring your life against other people's lives and always finding yours somehow lacking. The habit of putting constant pressure on yourself to perform better, do more, be more, achieve more, all while giving yourself almost no space to simply be human and imperfect and in need of care. The habit of always anticipating the worst possible outcome before any situation has had the chance to unfold naturally. The habit of carrying other people's emotional weight while neglecting the weight already sitting on your own heart. Your thoughts have been moving so fast and so constantly that your soul barely has room to breathe anymore. It is like trying to rest in a room where a loud alarm is always sounding, where the noise never fully stops, where quiet is something you read about but rarely actually experience. No wonder your heart feels drained. No wonder your energy disappears so quickly. You have been living at full speed for so long that your spirit is simply exhausted from the journey. I want you to begin choosing peace more intentionally starting from today. Not a dramatic overnight transformation, but small and honest choices every single day. Slow down in the places where you can afford to slow down. Step away from the noise that keeps your spirit unsettled, the social media that makes you feel behind, the conversations that leave you feeling worse than before they started, the thought patterns that pull you into darkness every time you follow them. Give yourself genuine permission to rest without immediately attaching guilt to it. Your worth is not measured by how much you produce. Your value does not decrease when you pause. Open your hands slowly and release the pressure to control every outcome in your life. I know how terrifying that feels. I know that for you, control has felt like safety for a very long time, because when you could control things, you felt less afraid of what might happen. But the truth is that most of the things you fear cannot actually be controlled by you at all, and the exhausting effort of trying to control them has been one of the heaviest things your heart carries every single day. Healing does not always arrive like lightning splitting the sky in a single dramatic moment. That is the kind of healing we dream about, sudden and complete and instantly transforming. But most healing, the real and lasting kind, begins much more quietly. It begins like soft rain falling onto dry ground after a long season of drought. It begins when you finally allow yourself to stop pretending and admit that you need help carrying what has become too heavy to carry alone. That honesty is not weakness. That honesty is one of the bravest things a tired heart can offer. If this message is speaking to something deep inside you today, if these words are reaching a place in your heart that rarely gets visited, I want to encourage you to share this with someone else who might need to hear it too. And if you want to support this channel so that more people can find these messages when they need them most, please take a moment to subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Every single person who finds this content at the right moment in their life matters deeply. You being here today is not an accident. Now let us go a little deeper together, because there is more your heart needs to hear today. There are certain pains you thought you had already moved on from. You told yourself you were healed. You told yourself enough time had passed. You stopped talking about those old wounds because you believed the silence meant they were gone. But then something happens, a certain tone of voice, a familiar kind of disappointment, an unexpected silence from someone you trusted, a moment that looks just enough like the past, and suddenly those old wounds are wide open again like they never closed at all. You may wonder what is wrong with you. You may feel frustrated that something from so long ago still has this much power over your present moment. But I want you to stop being harsh with yourself about that. Emotional wounds do not simply disappear because time passes. They do not heal just because you decided to stop thinking about them. Some hurts settle quietly beneath the surface of your daily life, and they stay there patiently until a new disappointment brushes against them, like a hand pressing against a bruise you forgot you had. And suddenly the pain is sharp and immediate and confusing, because the new wound and the old wound are speaking at the same time, and your heart cannot tell the difference between them. You became very skilled at surviving pain. That is something to recognize honestly. You learned how to keep functioning while carrying injuries that would stop other people in their tracks. You learned how to smile through heartbreak, how to keep showing up through betrayal, how to continue forward through loss. And that kind of survival strength is genuinely remarkable. But survival is not the same thing as healing. You can survive a wound for years while it continues quietly shaping the way you see people, the way you receive love, the way you interpret situations that remind your nervous system of what hurt you before. There are still places inside your heart that carry fear from specific moments when trust was broken and you were not prepared for it. And because of those experiences, you began doing something very natural, but also very costly. You started protecting yourself emotionally before other people even had the chance to hurt you. You began pulling back before connections grew too deep. You began expecting disappointment to arrive before kindness had time to fully settle. You started building quiet walls around the softest parts of yourself, not because you wanted to live that way, but because part of you genuinely believed those walls would keep you safer. And in some ways they did protect you for a while. But those same walls also kept genuine peace from fully settling into your heart. They kept you at a certain emotional distance from the very things your soul was longing for: deep connection, real trust, the kind of love that does not feel like it might disappear tomorrow. Listen carefully now. Not everyone who disappoints you is trying to destroy you. Not every person who makes a mistake is the same as the ones who once broke your trust so deeply. But your wounded heart has learned to react to all of them as though the danger is the same, as though every uncertain situation is proof that pain is coming again. You are not weak because your heart still reacts emotionally to certain triggers. You are wounded in places that need gentleness, not constant self-criticism. You need patience with yourself, not judgment. You need honesty with yourself, not performance. Instead of hiding those reactions behind anger or emotional distance or sudden withdrawal, bring them into the open. Speak honestly about what you are feeling, instead of letting it build silently into something that eventually overwhelms you. And notice something beautiful even in the middle of all this. Even after everything that wounded you, your heart still longs for real connection. Even after every betrayal, your spirit still reaches toward love. Even after every disappointment, something inside you still hopes that things could be different. That matters more than you may realize right now. It means that pain did not finish the job of making you completely cold. It means tenderness is still alive somewhere inside you, even if fear has been trying to cover it for a long time. Breathe slowly and let your guarded heart rest for a few moments. Stop spending all your energy preparing yourself for the next disappointment. Let yourself be a little more present in the moments that are actually here right now, instead of always living in the anticipated pain of moments that have not arrived yet. Healing is possible, my child. Not overnight, and not without honesty and patience and genuine care. But it is possible. And it is already beginning in you. Even in this moment, even as you listen to these words and feel them, landing somewhere real inside your chest. We are committed to spreading hope, faith, and the message of Jesus Christ to people around the world. If you would like to help us continue this work, please visit PayPal links below. Your kindness means more than words can express. Now I want to speak to something that many people feel, but very few ever say out loud. There have been many moments in your life when people looked at you and assumed everything was fine simply because you kept smiling. You became very skilled at appearing okay, even while your heart was quietly breaking underneath the surface. You learned how to comfort other people during their hard times, while privately carrying your own pain with nowhere to put it. You learned how to encourage others, show up for your responsibilities, keep everything moving forward, all while feeling emotionally drained in ways you never fully showed anyone. Most people around you only ever saw the surface version of you. They saw the strong one, the capable one, the one who always seemed to manage somehow. They did not see the effort it took just to stay steady through certain days. They did not see what happened after the conversations ended, after the doors closed, after the smile you wore for everyone else finally got to rest. They did not see the moments when you sat alone with your exhaustion and wondered how much longer you could keep carrying everything without collapsing. You pushed your own emotions aside so consistently, so automatically, that it became second nature to you. You told yourself to stay strong. You told yourself that other people had bigger problems. You told yourself that falling apart was not an option because too many things depended on you staying together. And so you kept going. You kept carrying. You kept showing up, all while quietly melting inside like a candle burning at both ends, still giving light, still showing warmth, but slowly running out of the very substance that made the flame possible. Come closer now and hear me say this clearly. You do not need to carry this exhaustion in silence anymore. You do not need to convince anyone, including yourself, that you are stronger than you feel. Your emotional well-being matters. Your peace matters. Your heart is not a machine designed to absorb endless pressure without ever receiving care. And yet you have been treating it exactly like a machine for a very long time, expecting it to keep performing without rest, without attention, without the basic human kindness of being allowed to feel without immediately having to fix the feeling. You are allowed to admit when your spirit feels weary. You are allowed to step back from the things that constantly drain your peace. You are allowed to need comfort and care and gentleness, not just from other people, but from yourself. The tiredness inside you right now is not laziness. It is not weakness of character. It is the completely natural result of carrying emotional battles for far too long without enough healing to balance the weight. Your soul has been quietly begging for rest, while your mind kept demanding more from yourself. And today I am here to tell you that it is okay to stop demanding so much. It is okay to breathe. It is okay to let yourself be human. Sit quietly for a moment and breathe deeply. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let the part of your face that is always performing relaxation feel what actual relaxation might be like. Invite honesty into the places where exhaustion has settled most heavily. I know how much strength it took to survive everything you have already walked through, but I do not want survival to be the ceiling of your life anymore. I want peace to become part of your daily experience. Real peace. Not the kind that disappears the moment a problem arrives, but the kind that stays with you as a quiet undercurrent, even when life feels difficult. That kind of peace is possible for you. Stay with me while we move toward it together. For a very long time, your life has essentially revolved around endurance. You learned how to wake up every morning and keep moving regardless of how heavy your emotions were. You became skilled at adapting to pressure and disappointment and uncertainty, because you had no other choice. Survival demanded that from you, and you rose to meet that demand every single time. But somewhere along the journey, surviving became so routine, so automatic, so deeply embedded in how you moved through each day, that you stopped noticing how exhausted your spirit had truly become beneath the constant motion. You kept telling yourself the same thing over and over. Just get through this week. Just handle this one problem. Just survive this one difficult season, and then things will be better. But then another week came, and another problem arrived, and another difficult season began, and the promise of rest kept getting pushed a little further into the future. Always just out of reach, always dependent on circumstances that never quite lined up the way you needed them to. I need you to stop and honestly notice what this pattern has done to your heart. You have grown so deeply accustomed to tension and pressure that peace feels genuinely foreign to you now. When a truly quiet moment comes, you do not fully settle into it. Part of your mind is always scanning, always waiting for the next difficulty to emerge, always preparing to brace for impact. Your nervous system has been trained by years of emotional weight to stay on high alert, even when the immediate environment is calm. It is like a soldier who comes home from a long war, but cannot stop watching every doorway for danger, because their body has forgotten what safety actually feels like. You were created for more than constant emotional defense. You were not meant to spend your entire life always bracing for impact, always in survival mode, always managing crisis after crisis, without sufficient peace between them to truly recover. Yet fear and disappointment and uncertainty slowly trained your heart to believe that struggle was simply your permanent state of being. You stopped expecting rest. You stopped expecting peace. You almost stopped expecting good things at all, because hoping for them had started to feel like a setup for more disappointment. Survival kept you alive through every hard season, and that matters. That truly matters. I want you to recognize the strength it took to keep going through everything you faced. But survival was never meant to become your permanent identity, your ceiling, the highest thing you could aspire to. There is an enormous difference between being alive and actually living with peace settled into your spirit. And I want you to begin moving toward the second one, slowly and honestly, one small step at a time. Start loosening your grip on constant control. Stop treating every single day like a battlefield that must be conquered before you have earned the right to rest. Give yourself permission to experience small moments of stillness without immediately filling them with the next worry. Notice the beauty of a quiet morning. Notice the warmth of a single comfortable moment. Let your soul remember what calmness feels like, not as a distant memory, but as something genuinely available to you even now. And pay attention to something your body is already trying to tell you. Notice the tension in your shoulders that appeared there so gradually you stopped feeling it. Notice the tightness in your chest that visits you more days than not. Notice the exhaustion that lives behind your eyes even on days when everything appears fine on the surface. Your body is not broken. It is simply carrying the overflow of an emotional world that has been under too much pressure for too long without enough healing. There is another way to live. Not a life without difficulty. Not a life where challenges never come, but a life where peace gradually becomes stronger than panic. Where rest becomes something you receive without guilt. Where your heart is no longer always running at full speed, just to stay ahead of the next potential collapse. That life is not a fantasy. It is genuinely available to you. Stay close to the truth in these words, while your heart slowly finds its way there. One of the heaviest burdens you have carried through all of this is the belief that you must handle absolutely everything alone. Even when your heart is overwhelmed, even when your emotional tank is completely empty, even when you feel like you are barely holding the pieces together. You keep trying to solve everything privately, keep trying to figure it all out before anyone notices you are struggling. You carry responsibilities in silence. You absorb stress without showing it. You hold emotional pain inside yourself until it becomes almost unbearable. And even then, you rarely reach out, because something inside you believes that asking for help means admitting to a weakness you cannot afford to show. I need you to hear this clearly and hold it carefully inside your heart. You were never meant to carry the full weight of your life completely alone. That was never the design. Yet somewhere in the story of your life, you learned that relying on others was dangerous. You learned that when you needed support, it was not always there. Some people let you down in moments when you genuinely needed them to show up. Some people misunderstood your pain or dismissed it, or simply did not have the capacity to sit with you in it. And so gradually, almost invisibly, you built emotional independence like armor around your heart. You convinced yourself that the only truly reliable person in your world was you. And while that self-reliance helped you survive, there is a difference between strength and isolation that you have been confusing for a very long time. True strength is not never feeling overwhelmed. True strength is being honest about your overwhelm and choosing to reach for help anyway. Your spirit is tired because you keep trying to carry mountains with bare hands while refusing the rest, comfort, or support that could make the journey lighter. Before we go further, if these words are reaching places inside you that do not get touched very often, please take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so. Share this video with someone in your life who might need to hear these words today. There are people all around you carrying the same silent exhaustion you have been carrying. People who need to know they are not alone in it. People who need someone to speak honestly to their tired hearts. Your sharing this could be the thing that reaches them at exactly the right moment. Now let us talk about something that lives quietly in many hearts, but causes tremendous ongoing pain. There are people connected to your story whose names still stir emotion inside you the moment they cross your mind. You may not think about them every day. You may have convinced yourself that you have moved on, but certain memories still carry sharp edges. Certain betrayals still feel deeply unfair, no matter how much time has passed between then and now. And without fully realizing it, you began carrying bitterness like a hidden stone inside your spirit, not something you chose consciously, but something that settled there through repeated pain and unanswered hurt. I understand completely why your heart became angry. I understand why certain actions felt impossible to excuse. Some people wounded you in ways that were genuinely wrong, genuinely unfair, genuinely damaging to your heart and your life. Some people walked away while barely acknowledging the damage they left behind. Some people caused real harm and then continued living their lives as though nothing significant had happened, as though the pain they created in your world was too small to notice or too inconvenient to address. And I know how deeply unfair that feels to carry. But listen carefully to this because it is important. Holding on to bitterness does not punish the people who hurt you nearly as much as it quietly poisons your own peace every single day. Every day you spend in bitterness is a day those people still have power over your emotional life, even if they are completely absent from your present reality. Unforgiveness chains your heart to a moment that is already gone, making you relive it over and over again, keeping the wound fresh, keeping the pain active, keeping you emotionally stuck in a chapter that deserves to be behind you. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood ideas that exists. So let me be very clear about what it is and what it is not. Forgiveness does not mean what happened to you was acceptable. Forgiveness does not mean the pain was imaginary or exaggerated. Forgiveness does not require you to immediately trust the person again, or pretend the wound never happened, or welcome back someone who repeatedly showed you they were unsafe. Forgiveness is not about them at all. Forgiveness is about releasing your own heart from the prison of constantly reliving the injury. It is about refusing to let someone else's actions permanently control your emotional world. It is about choosing your own peace over the exhausting weight of sustained anger. Right now, some of your tiredness comes directly from carrying old pain, like a backpack full of heavy stones, across every new season of your life. Every new relationship you enter carries those stones. Every new opportunity you approach carries those stones. Every hopeful moment gets slightly darkened by the weight of what you are still dragging from before. I want you to begin laying some of those stones down. Not because the people who hurt you deserve your release, but because you deserve your own freedom. Stop replaying old conversations, hoping they will finally make sense. Stop reopening wounds trying to understand why certain people failed you so completely. Some answers will never come. Some people will never fully acknowledge what they did. Some apologies will never arrive. And waiting for those things before you allow yourself to heal means giving other people control over a process that belongs entirely to you. Healing begins when you stop requiring other people to change, before you allow your own heart to move forward. And notice how unforgiveness has quietly affected every corner of your spirit. It made trust harder in new relationships that had nothing to do with the old pain. It made your heart more defensive, more guarded, more reluctant to open, even when safety was genuinely present. It kept certain wounds emotionally alive long after the original moment had passed. Because bitterness feeds on memory, and memory visits often. You deserve freedom from that constant inner tension. You deserve peace that is not chained to old hurt forever. Forgiveness may happen slowly, like sunlight gradually entering a room that has been dark for a long time. You do not need to force yourself into immediate emotional release. You do not need to feel the forgiveness before you choose to begin the process of it. Just begin opening your heart to the idea of release. Begin choosing your own peace over continued suffering. Begin telling yourself that what happened does not get to own your future, no matter how deeply it wounded your past. Let your heart become lighter. Let peace slowly return to the places where bitterness once lived. Your future deserves a version of you that is no longer emotionally imprisoned by everything that happened before this moment. And that version of you is entirely possible. Let yourself begin moving toward it today. This ministry exists to bring encouragement, prayer, and God's truth to every heart that needs it. You can stand with us through PayPal, links in the description and pinned comment. May God bless you abundantly for your love and support. Now let us talk about something that runs even deeper in many hearts. There is a quiet lie that many people carry, a belief so familiar that it no longer even sounds like a lie. It sounds like the truth. The lie says this: you must fix yourself completely before you are worthy of being truly loved. You carry this belief everywhere you go, even if you never say it out loud. Part of you feels like you need to become more disciplined, more emotionally stable, more spiritually together, more successful, more healed, more sorted, before you can fully rest in the care that surrounds you. And because of that belief, you approach your own life like an endless renovation project, always under construction, always not quite ready, always one more improvement away from deserving the things your heart most deeply longs for. This belief followed you into the way you see yourself, the way you experience relationships, and the way you interact with every source of love and care available to you. So when you fail, which all humans do, shame rushes in immediately. When you fall short, which all humans do, your inner voice begins listing all the reasons you are difficult to love. When you struggle, which all humans do, part of you interprets that struggle as evidence that you are somehow fundamentally lacking the thing that makes people worthy of genuine care. Let me tell you something about love that your heart may need to hear for the very first time, or perhaps for the 1,000th time in a new way. Love that is truly real does not operate on a performance system. It does not withdraw when you make mistakes. It does not show up only during your strongest, most impressive seasons and disappear during your weakest, most embarrassing ones. The care that exists for you right now does not require you to have everything figured out before it considers you worth staying beside. You are already loved while you are still healing. You are already cared for while you are still struggling. You are already worthy of gentleness while you are still in the middle of growing. Stop exhausting yourself trying to perform perfection for an audience that never actually required it. Perfection is a target that keeps moving. Every time you get close, it shifts a little further away, and the chase never ends because the target is not real. It is a concept constructed from fear and comparison, and the painful lessons of a life that sometimes only showed you love when you were performing well enough to earn it. That was not the truth about your worth. That was simply a painful and incomplete experience of what love can look like when it comes through broken people in broken circumstances. Growth is real and growth matters. Choosing to become better, more honest, more kind, more disciplined, that is genuinely important and worth pursuing. But your value was never dependent on reaching a certain level of emotional or spiritual performance first. You were worthy of love before you accomplished anything. You were worthy of care before you healed anything. You are worthy of gentleness right now, exactly as you are, messy and tired and still figuring things out. Start speaking to yourself with a little more kindness. Stop calling yourself hopeless every time you stumble. Stop treating your failures as permanent labels on your identity. Learn to correct your course without destroying your heart in the process. Grace is not the same thing as excusing harmful behavior. Grace is what allows healing to actually continue, instead of collapsing completely under the weight of endless shame and self-condemnation. There are memories you revisit quietly that still carry shame attached to them. Certain old mistakes continue following you like shadows years after the moments themselves have passed. You replay them sometimes, those old choices, those seasons when you acted from fear or desperation or confusion or loneliness or pain. And each time you revisit them, that same heavy feeling settles over your spirit. Part of you still believes that those moments permanently define something about who you are, that they marked you in ways that cannot fully be undone. But hear me now. Shame does not speak the truth about your identity. There is a very important difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction is the gentle internal voice that says a choice was harmful and guides you towards something better. Condemnation is the relentless internal voice that says you are beyond repair because of what you chose. One leads toward healing and growth. The other chains you to your past and tells you nothing meaningful can grow from your life anymore. And too many people spend years listening to condemnation while genuinely believing they are simply being honest with themselves. You are not permanently stained by the worst thing you ever did. You are not defined entirely by the hardest season you ever survived. You are not simply the sum of your failures and your wounds and your worst moments. You are also the person who kept trying after those moments. You are also the person who survived what once looked unsurvivable. You are also the person who is here right now, still searching for something better, still reaching toward healing, still hoping that peace is possible. That reaching matters. That hope matters. Do not let shame silence it. Stop reopening old wounds just to punish yourself with them again. Stop carrying memories like chains wrapped around your spirit that prevent you from moving fully into the life still ahead of you. Your past explains certain parts of your pain, but it does not own your future. Bring the hidden regrets into the light, rather than burying them deeper into silence, where they grow heavier with time. Healing begins when you stop hiding from grace and start allowing grace to meet you honestly where you actually are. There was a time when your heart felt lighter than it does right now, before disappointment settled so deeply into your spirit, before the weight of repeated heartbreak made you permanently cautious, before life surprised you with losses you were not prepared to survive. You carried a different kind of relationship with hope. You trusted a little more easily. You dreamed a little more freely. You believed that good things could happen without immediately preparing yourself emotionally for the moment they would disappear. But life wounded you in places you did not expect to be wounded. And those wounds changed you in ways that happened so gradually that you barely noticed the transformation taking place. Your heart slowly grew quieter about its hopes. It learned to keep dreams smaller so the disappointment, when they did not come true, would hurt a little less. It learned to hold on to joy carefully, almost suspiciously, because joy had a habit of becoming grief without much warning. And over time, the armor you built became so familiar that you forgot it was armor at all. You thought the wariness, the caution, the guardedness was simply who you had become. But there is still tenderness alive inside you. There is still goodness in your heart that hardship could not completely reach. The fact that you care about healing right now, the fact that these words are landing somewhere meaningful inside you, the fact that you have not simply given up and gone completely numb, that is evidence of something beautiful that pain could not destroy. Life may have left scars on your spirit, but it did not erase what was most essentially and genuinely you. You have been so focused on your wounds that you have not been giving enough attention to your resilience. You survived seasons that could have turned your heart bitter beyond all recovery. You survived betrayals that could have extinguished all your capacity for trust. You survived losses that could have made joy feel permanently unreachable. And yet here you are, still feeling, still hoping, even if that hoping is quiet and cautious and careful, still reaching for something better, even if you are not entirely sure what it looks like or whether it is actually coming. That reaching is not foolishness. It is one of the most courageous things your tired heart does every single day. And I want you to stop speaking about your future as though disappointment is guaranteed. Stop expecting every good thing to disappear before it has had a fair chance to grow. Stop treating your hope like something that must be hidden and minimized because it has been disappointed before. Hope that has survived being wounded is the strongest kind of hope there is. It is not naive. It has been tested. It knows what loss feels like, and it chooses to reach anyway. Let your spirit unclench a little from the constant expectation of disaster. Let yourself notice the small good things that are present right now without immediately preparing for their end. The hopeful version of you is not gone. It is just waiting underneath the exhaustion, underneath the fear, underneath the walls you built for protection during the storms. Healing is not about becoming someone completely new and unrecognizable. Sometimes healing is the quiet process of rediscovering the best parts of yourself that pain temporarily buried under survival and defense. Invite gentleness into the places where your heart became hardened. Let the walls soften a little in the spaces where it is safe for them to soften. You do not need to remain emotionally frozen just because difficult seasons left their marks on you. There is still warmth ahead of you. There is still beauty your heart has not yet encountered. There are still moments coming that will surprise you with their goodness in ways your current, exhausted self cannot fully imagine yet. There are moments when you look at yourself honestly and wonder whether life changed you too much to recover what was lost. You remember how open you once were, how much lighter your heart once felt, how much more easily trust came to you before the specific experiences that taught you to be afraid of it. And comparing that version of yourself to who you are now can feel genuinely heartbreaking sometimes, like mourning a version of yourself that no longer exists. But pain changed some things inside you without erasing the goodness that was placed there from the very beginning. The fact that you still care deeply after everything is proof of that goodness. The fact that your heart still responds to kindness and beauty and love, even guardedly, even carefully, is proof that the essential part of you is still alive. The fact that your spirit still longs for peace and connection and meaning is proof that exhaustion has not finished you. You have been too focused on counting your wounds to notice how much of your resilience remains intact. You survived seasons that would have broken many people permanently. You carried weight that would have crushed hearts less determined than yours. And you are still here, still reaching, still present, still looking for something better. Stop speaking about yourself as though you are ruined beyond repair. Stop treating your emotional scars as evidence that nothing beautiful remains in you. You are not empty just because you are tired. You are not beyond hope just because hope has been painful before. Sometimes healing begins in the quiet moment when you finally recognize that your heart still contains goodness worth protecting, instead of continuing to criticize. Your empathy, the way you feel other people's pain, because you know what pain feels like. Your sensitivity, the way beauty still reaches you even through grief. Your persistence, the way you keep going even when going feels almost impossible. Your desire to find meaning in what you have been through. These things matter. These things are still present inside you. These things are not small. The enemy of your peace wants you to believe you are too damaged for joy. That lie keeps you trapped inside a story that stopped being true a long time ago. But there is potential still unfolding inside you that pain could not stop. There is beauty still growing quietly beneath the surface of your life, like roots moving silently through dark soil, building strength for a season of flowering that has not arrived yet, but is genuinely on its way. Let the way you see yourself begin to shift. Stop measuring your worth only by your wounds. Stop letting the hardest chapters of your story be the only chapters you read. You are more than what happened to you. There is still light inside you that darkness could not fully overcome. And that light is what is going to carry you forward into the seasons that are still coming, the seasons that have beauty and rest and genuine peace waiting inside them for your arriving heart. There have been moments when discouragement settled so heavily over your heart that you quietly wondered whether your life was still moving toward anything meaningful. You looked at unfinished dreams, at prayers that seemed to disappear into silence, at relationships that did not work out the way you hoped, at directions that remained unclear far longer than felt bearable. And part of you began asking questions. You were almost afraid to speak out loud even to yourself. You wondered whether your effort was making any difference. You wondered whether your future would always feel this uncertain and unresolved. Some days it genuinely felt like you were simply occupying space in the world, rather than truly living with direction and purpose. I hear every one of those unspoken questions. I know there were seasons when disappointment made your future look smaller than it actually was. You started protecting yourself from hope, because hope had led to heartbreak too many times. You lowered your expectations, because high expectations made the fall hurt more. You told yourself not to want too much, because wanting too much seemed to invite disappointment to show up more quickly. And slowly, almost invisibly, your vision for what your life could still become got quietly smaller, not because your dreams were unrealistic, but because your heart was simply too tired and too wounded to keep reaching for them without some protection from another potential loss. But your story is not ending in this season of confusion. Come sit with this honestly and stop speaking over your future with the language of hopelessness. You cannot see from where you are standing right now the full picture of what is still unfolding ahead of you. You are standing in the middle of a story and trying to judge the ending from a chapter that has not finished yet. The confusion you are feeling right now does not mean your life has lost direction. The uncertainty you are experiencing does not mean failure is the conclusion. Some of the most important chapters in any life begin in seasons of enormous confusion and apparent stillness. There are parts of your purpose still developing quietly beneath the surface of your daily life right now. Some growth is happening inside your character during this difficult season that easier times could never have produced. Your compassion deepened through suffering in ways that could not have happened any other way. Your wisdom grew through disappointment in ways that comfortable seasons simply do not teach. Your capacity to understand other people's hidden pain expanded because you know what hidden pain truly feels like from the inside. Even now, while you question your direction and feel uncertain about what comes next, something important is being shaped inside you that will matter deeply in the chapters still ahead. And here is something worth noticing carefully. The fact that your heart still longs for meaning is itself evidence that purpose is still alive inside you. Hearts that have truly given up stop searching. Yours has not stopped. Something in you keeps reaching, keeps asking, keeps looking for more than mere survival. That reaching is a sign, not of foolishness, but of a spirit that knows, even through exhaustion, that there is more ahead than what currently meets the eye. Invite honesty about your uncertainty, rather than hiding inside fear about the future. Speak openly about the dreams you buried, because disappointment made them too painful to keep holding. Let hope begin breathing again into the places where discouragement settled most deeply. Your life is not random noise. Your pain is not pointless suffering with no meaning attached. Your story has not been forgotten. There are still moments ahead that will help certain things make sense that feel senseless right now. There are still chapters coming that you cannot read from where you currently stand. Do not give up on your story, now simply because the current chapter has been difficult and long. The most powerful turning points in any story often come right after the longest and most confusing stretches of apparent stillness. Stay present. Stay honest. Stay close to hope, even cautious and quiet hope. And keep going. The next chapter has not been written yet, and it holds more than you currently believe. There are wounds inside you that formed so slowly and so quietly that you barely noticed how deeply they had gone until something happened to reveal them. Some of the damage in your heart did not arrive through single dramatic moments. It arrived through accumulation, through repeated disappointment over long periods of time, through repeated seasons where you felt unseen while working hard to stay strong for everyone else, through repeated emotional experiences where your needs went unaddressed because other things always seemed more urgent, more visible, more worthy of immediate attention. And yet, even while you thought you might be falling apart completely, something was working quietly beneath the surface of your visible life. You kept looking for sudden transformation, while gentle rebuilding was already happening in hidden places. Some healing began through painful lessons you did not understand at the time you were living through them. Some growth started in lonely seasons you desperately wanted to escape, but which were quietly doing something essential inside you. Even your delays, your pauses, your disappointments, your long stretches of apparent stagnation, these carried within them opportunities for a kind of restoration that faster seasons simply could not have reached. You have been frustrated because progress seemed invisible. But healing is not always loud or dramatic or immediately recognizable. Sometimes it happens the way roots grow, deep underground and invisible for a long time, before anything appears above the surface. You have become more emotionally aware than you once were. You recognize unhealthy patterns now that you used to walk into without seeing. You value peace differently because you now understand something about what it costs to live without it. Your compassion for other people's pain has deepened because suffering gave you an understanding that comfortable seasons never could have provided. These changes are real. They are happening in you, and they matter deeply even if they develop more slowly and quietly than you wanted. Stop rushing your healing out of impatience or frustration with the pace of the process. Some parts of your heart required time and gentleness, because quick solutions would never have reached the deeper wounds living underneath your surface struggles. The approach that could actually heal what was most broken in you required patience, honesty, and consistent gentle attention, not the quick fix your exhausted spirit kept wishing for. Open your heart fully and allow the rebuilding to continue at the pace it actually needs, rather than the pace your impatience demands. Stop resisting softness because you are afraid of becoming vulnerable again. Stop believing that emotional numbness is strength. The parts of you that are meant to be restored need gentleness to get there, not force. Trust the process, even when it feels slower than you hoped. Mountains are shaped slowly through years of unseen movement. Rivers carve stone through patient persistence across generations. The most significant and lasting changes in your heart are happening in exactly the same patient and unhurried way, and pay attention to the quiet changes already taking place inside you. You are not reacting in exactly the way you used to react. You are becoming more aware of what costs you your peace. You are beginning to want deeper healing rather than just temporary escape from the pain. These are not small things. These are signs of restoration taking root in real and lasting ways. Do not lose hope simply because your transformation feels gradual. Your healing is further along than you currently realize. The work happening inside you is real even when it is invisible. Stay patient with yourself. Stay honest about where you are, and keep going, one small and honest step at a time, toward the peace and wholeness that your heart has been searching for through every difficult season it has survived. I know how deeply frustrating uncertainty has been for you. There are situations in your life right now that feel tangled and unresolved and emotionally exhausting because you cannot see clearly where they are leading. You keep trying to understand why certain things remain unanswered, why certain doors closed when you needed them open, why certain relationships shifted in ways you did not choose and could not prevent, why your path feels less clear and less settled than you hoped it would be by this point in your life. Your mind searches constantly for explanations because confusion makes your heart feel fundamentally unsafe. And when the explanations do not come, the anxiety simply grows louder and more demanding. If these messages have brought peace to your heart, strengthened your faith, or reminded you of God's love, please consider supporting this ministry through PayPal links below. Together, we can continue sharing hope and God's word with countless souls around the world. Come closer for a moment and release the pressure to have everything understood immediately. You are trying to read entire chapters while still standing inside unfinished sentences. Your perspective right now is limited to what your current position allows you to see. And that limited view has made certain moments feel far more frightening and confusing than they will eventually turn out to be when more of the picture becomes visible. Confusion is not always evidence that your life is falling apart. Sometimes confusion simply means the full picture has not unfolded enough yet for current understanding to be possible. The discomfort of not knowing is real, and I do not want to minimize it. Human hearts genuinely need some sense of direction and meaning. You want reassurance that your waiting will eventually matter. You want evidence that your pain is not completely random. You want confirmation that beauty and goodness and clarity are still coming even though they are not here yet. And while I understand those desires completely, there is a deeper truth available to you, even in the middle of the not knowing. Look carefully at your own life and your own history for a moment. There were seasons that made no sense to you at all while you were living through them. You questioned why certain delays happened. You grieved certain endings that felt deeply wrong. You resisted certain changes with everything in you because they were not what you wanted or what you had planned for. Yet later, with distance, certain things became clear that could not be seen before. Certain disappointments turned out to protect you from paths that would have caused more harm. Certain losses redirected you towards something you would never have found if you had received what you originally wanted. Certain painful seasons strengthened your character in ways that the comfortable alternatives never could have reached. What once seemed meaningless eventually revealed hidden meaning when enough time had passed to see it properly. That does not mean every painful thing has a beautiful purpose that will one day be perfectly clear. Life is more complicated than that simple formula. But it does mean that your current inability to understand everything about your present season does not mean understanding will never come. It often simply means the timing for understanding has not arrived yet. Stop demanding immediate clarity from every difficult moment. Some understanding only comes with distance and growth, and the particular kind of perspective that cannot be rushed or manufactured on demand. Some answers require a certain maturity inside you before they can fully make sense. Invite honesty about your confusion into the open, rather than battling it alone, inside the closed rooms of your anxious mind. Sit quietly sometimes without demanding anything. Let your spirit rest inside the uncertainty for a moment, without trying to immediately resolve it or fix it, or understand it away. Trust grows strongest in the seasons where understanding feels most incomplete. And just because you cannot currently explain everything about what you are walking through does not mean your life has lost its direction. The traveler moving through thick fog still moves forward, even when the road ahead looks completely unclear. You are still moving forward too, even when visibility feels impossibly low. You do not need to see the whole road to take the next step. You just need to take the next step. One day you will look back at certain moments that currently hurt or confuse or frustrate you, and understanding will arrive quietly and gently, like sunrise spreading slowly across a dark horizon after a long and difficult night. The light is already coming even if you cannot see it yet from where you are standing. Stay patient, stay honest, stay moving forward, and most importantly, stay hopeful. Because your story is still being written, and the chapters ahead hold more goodness than the current chapter is allowing you to see. My dear child, I want you to sit with me again today, just like before, quietly and honestly, without any pretending and without any performance. Because there is more that your heart needs to hear. There is more that has been living inside you quietly, waiting for someone to finally speak it out loud in a way that actually reaches the real you. Not the version of you that shows up for the world every day, but the version that exists in the silence, in the private moments, in the spaces between everything you say and everything you actually feel. Last time we talked about exhaustion. We talked about fear, about survival, about the wounds that time did not automatically heal, about the bitterness that quietly poisons peace, about the shame that follows old mistakes like a shadow that never fully disappears. And I hope something from that conversation settled somewhere real inside you. I hope at least one truth found a corner of your heart where it could begin doing its quiet work. Because healing does not announce itself loudly. It simply begins, slowly and gently, when you finally stop running long enough for it to catch up to you. Today I want to go even deeper. Because the truth is, most people spend their entire lives managing the surface of their pain without ever truly addressing what lives underneath it. They treat the symptoms without ever sitting honestly with the root. They find temporary relief, but never the lasting peace their soul has been searching for through every difficult season they have survived. And I do not want that for you. I want something more real and more lasting to begin taking root inside your heart today. So let us begin with something that most people never talk about honestly. Let us talk about loneliness. Not the simple kind of loneliness that comes from being physically alone in a room. I am talking about the deeper and much more painful kind of loneliness that can exist right in the middle of a life that looks full from the outside. The kind of loneliness that sits beside you at a table full of people. The kind that follows you through conversations where you are speaking words, but never actually saying what you mean. The kind that grows quietly in relationships where you are present but never truly seen. That kind of loneliness is one of the heaviest and least discussed forms of pain that human hearts carry. You may have people in your life. You may have relationships, responsibilities, connections, and conversations filling your days. But there are parts of you that almost nobody has ever truly seen or known. There are thoughts you carry that you have never spoken out loud to another person because you were not sure they would understand, or because you were afraid of how they might react, or because the vulnerability required to share them felt like more risk than your guarded heart was willing to take. There are feelings that visit you regularly that you have learned to manage privately because showing them felt too complicated or too burdensome or too likely to be misunderstood. And so you learn to live with a version of yourself on the outside that is slightly different from the version living on the inside. Not dramatically different, not dishonestly different in a way that feels like lying, just subtly different, carefully managed, consistently presented in a way that keeps the more tender and more fragile and more honest parts of yourself safely out of reach of anything that might hurt them further. But here is what that careful management has cost you over time. Every time you hide a real part of yourself to appear more acceptable, more manageable, more okay than you actually are, you deepen the loneliness just a little more. You create a slightly larger gap between who you actually are and who you are allowing yourself to be seen as. And over months and years, that gap becomes a kind of prison. You start feeling trapped inside a performance you never intended to turn into your permanent identity. You start feeling exhausted by the constant low-level effort of maintaining the distance between your real self and your presented self. You start wondering whether anyone would actually stay if they knew the full story, if they saw the whole picture, if they encountered not just the strong and capable version, but the scared and tired and confused and genuinely struggling version that lives just underneath the surface. Come closer now and hear this clearly. The loneliness you feel is not evidence that you are unlovable. It is not proof that something is fundamentally wrong with who you are at your deepest level. It is the completely natural result of having spent too long protecting yourself by keeping your real self hidden. You cannot be truly known while simultaneously hiding the truest parts of yourself. You cannot experience genuine connection while maintaining careful emotional distance as a permanent protection strategy. The very things you are doing to protect yourself from pain are also, quietly and unintentionally, preventing you from experiencing the belonging your heart most deeply needs. I know why you built those protections. I know the specific moments and the specific people and the specific disappointments that taught you that showing your real self was dangerous. I know the times when you were honest and vulnerable and open, and it was used against you, misunderstood by you, dismissed by you, or simply met with a kind of indifference that felt worse than rejection, because at least rejection acknowledges that something real was offered. Those experiences were real. The lessons they taught your heart made complete sense given what happened. But the problem is that you took a lesson that was true in one specific context and applied it as a permanent rule across every context and every person and every relationship in your life going forward. Not every space is unsafe. Not every person will respond to your honesty with carelessness. Not every moment of vulnerability will end in the same kind of pain that taught you to stop being vulnerable in the first place. But your guarded heart cannot tell the difference yet between the situations that genuinely require protection and the situations that are actually safe enough for a little more openness. So it defaults to protection everywhere, all the time, with everyone, because protection has felt more reliable than the unpredictable experience of genuine trust. Slowly and gently, you can begin to change this, not by throwing your walls down overnight in a sudden burst of forced vulnerability that leaves you feeling exposed and unsafe, but by beginning to notice, carefully and honestly, the places and the people where a little more openness might actually be safe, by beginning to share small honest things in contexts where the risk is manageable, by beginning to practice, gradually and at your own pace, the experience of being known without immediately bracing for the pain of being rejected. You deserve to be known, my dear child. Not the managed version of you, not the strong and capable performance version of you. The real one, the one who gets afraid, the one who gets confused, the one who carries more than they ever show, the one who longs for more genuine connection than they currently allow themselves to receive. That version of you deserves to be loved and accepted and genuinely known. And that experience is possible. But it begins when you start taking the tiniest brave steps toward allowing it. Every video is created with prayer, time, and dedication to reach those who may be searching for encouragement and faith. By supporting this ministry through PayPal, you help keep this mission growing and touching more lives each day. God bless you abundantly. Now let us talk about something else that lives quietly, but powerfully in many tired hearts. Let us talk about comparison, because few things drain peace as consistently and as invisibly as the habit of measuring your life against the lives of other people. You may not even fully realize how often you do it, or how deeply it affects the way you feel about your own life and your own journey. But it happens constantly, almost automatically, almost like breathing. You see someone's apparent success, and something inside you immediately calculates where you are by comparison. You see someone's relationship, and something inside you measures yours against it. You see someone's confidence, or peace, or happiness, and something inside you quietly tallies the distance between where they appear to be and where you actually are. And the result is almost always the same. You end up feeling behind. You end up feeling like everyone else, somehow received a map to this life that you never got. You end up feeling like there is a version of living that other people have access to, a version that comes with clarity and direction and fulfillment and ease, and somehow you ended up on a completely different and much harder road without anyone explaining why or giving you the chance to choose differently. But here is the truth about comparison that your heart needs to hear and really hold on to. You are comparing your entire inner reality, including all your fears, all your confusion, all your exhaustion, all your wounds, all your private struggles, to other people's carefully curated outer appearance. You are measuring your behind the scenes against their highlight reel. You are judging your rough draft against their polished final presentation. And that comparison is not only unfair to yourself, it is also fundamentally false, because you genuinely do not know what is happening inside the lives of the people you are measuring yourself against. The person whose confidence you admire may be performing that confidence over a foundation of private terror. The relationship you envy may contain struggles and loneliness that never appear in the version others see. The success you are comparing yourself to may have cost its owner things that you would never be willing to pay if you knew the full price. What other people allow the world to see and what is actually happening inside their private experience are almost never the same thing. And you, of all people, should know this, because you have spent years maintaining your own carefully presented outer version while carrying a very different inner reality. You know exactly how much can be hidden behind a functional looking surface. Stop measuring your worth against other people's appearances. Stop deciding that your journey is failing because it does not match the timeline or the shape or the visible landmarks of someone else's journey. Your life is not a race with other people as your competitors. Your growth cannot be measured by comparing it to someone else's growth, because your starting point, your wounds, your history, your specific path, your particular combination of gifts and struggles and lessons is entirely unique to you. There is no fair comparison possible because there is no equivalent comparison available. The only meaningful measure of your progress is how far you have come from where you personally began. And when you look at that measure honestly, the picture is often far more remarkable than the distorted view comparison has been offering you. If these words are speaking to something real inside you today, please take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so. And please share this video with someone in your life who might be carrying the silent weight of comparison and loneliness and exhaustion without anyone around them naming what they are experiencing. Sometimes the most healing thing we can offer another person is simply showing them that someone else understands. Your sharing this could be exactly the thing someone needed to find today. Now let us talk about something that touches almost every person who has ever truly tried to care deeply about other people. Let us talk about what happens when you give and give from a heart that is already running low. When you keep pouring out care and attention and support and emotional energy for the people around you, while quietly forgetting that you yourself need to be replenished too. This pattern has a name that sounds almost noble from the outside, but feels like slow drowning from the inside. It is the pattern of the person who is always available for everyone else, but almost never available to themselves. You learned early that being helpful had value. You learned that showing up for others was a way of being loved, a way of being needed, a way of earning your place in relationships and in spaces that sometimes felt conditional on your usefulness. So you became the one who helped. You became the strong one, the capable one, the one people called when things went wrong, because they knew you would figure out a solution, or at least stay present through the difficulty. And that role felt meaningful. It gave you a sense of purpose and a sense of being important to the people around you. But there is a cost to that role that accumulates over time in ways you may not have fully named yet. When you are always the helper and never the helped. When you are always the strong one and never the one allowed to be fragile. When you are always available for others, but consistently unavailable to your own needs, something inside you begins to deplete. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly and steadily, like a well that keeps being drawn from without anyone ever thinking to replenish it. And eventually, the well runs dry, and you find yourself with nothing genuine left to give, going through the motions of care and support, while feeling hollowed out inside, because you have been giving from emptiness for longer than anyone around you realized. And the terrifying part is that most people around you still do not realize it, because you kept showing up, you kept helping, you kept being available. You kept performing the role so consistently that nobody noticed the performance was costing you more than you had. And part of you kept going because stopping felt selfish. Resting felt like abandoning the people who needed you. Setting limits felt like becoming someone you did not want to be. So you kept giving from the empty well and wondering why everything felt so heavy and so joyless and so exhausting even when nothing particularly dramatic was happening. Come sit with me and hear this truth. Giving from emptiness is not generosity. It is self-abandonment dressed up in the language of love. Real and sustainable care for other people requires that you also take seriously your own need for replenishment, rest, care, and attention. You cannot pour from a vessel that is empty. You cannot offer genuine presence to other people from a heart that is completely depleted. Choosing to care for yourself is not selfishness. It is the prerequisite for being able to genuinely care for anyone else over the long term. Start paying attention to your own energy in an honest way. Notice when you are giving from abundance and when you are giving from depletion. Learn to recognize the difference between serving from genuine love and serving from fear of what happens if you say no, or from the ingrained belief that your worth depends on your usefulness to others. Begin practicing the quiet and important skill of receiving care rather than only offering it. Let people help you sometimes. Let people sit with you in your difficulty without immediately redirecting the conversation toward their needs. Let yourself have needs that matter and deserve attention without apologizing for their existence. This will feel uncomfortable at first. It may even feel wrong because you have been trained for so long in the opposite direction. But discomfort is not the same thing as wrongness. Sometimes the most healing things feel uncomfortable precisely because they are asking you to do something different from what you have been doing, something that goes against the grooves worn deep into your patterns by years of repetition. You matter as much as the people you spend your energy caring for. Your needs are as real and as legitimate as theirs. Your rest is as necessary and as valuable as your service. Let yourself begin believing that, slowly and honestly and without guilt, one small honest choice at a time. Now let us talk about something that many spiritual and thoughtful people struggle with, but rarely discuss openly. Let us talk about what happens when you pray and nothing seems to change. When you reach out with your heart open and your need genuine and your faith sincere, and the silence that comes back feels enormous and cold and somehow more painful than if you had never reached out at all. When you watch other people describe answered prayers and miraculous interventions and clear divine guidance, while your own experience seems to consist mostly of unanswered requests and confusing silence and continuing difficulty that does not appear to be resolving itself, regardless of how sincerely you ask for help. That experience is one of the most isolating and faith-testing things a person can walk through, because it does not just create doubt about whether help is available. It can quietly create doubt about whether you specifically are worth helping. It can feed the shame narrative that says other people receive answers because they are more deserving, more faithful, more spiritually worthy, while you continue waiting because something fundamental about you makes you less eligible for the care that other people seem to receive without even asking for it, as sincerely as you have. Come closer now and hear this carefully, because this matters deeply. Silence is not the same thing as absence. Delay is not the same thing as denial. The experience of not receiving what you asked for in the way you asked for, it does not mean your asking was ignored or that you were found unworthy of response. Sometimes the most loving thing that can happen is not the immediate provision of what you requested, but the gradual development of what you actually need most deeply, which is not always the same thing as what you asked for on the surface. Think about how a wise and genuinely caring parent responds to a child. The child asks for things constantly, some of which the parent provides immediately, because they are exactly what the child needs, and some of which the parent withholds not out of indifference or punitive withholding, but out of a deeper understanding of what the child actually requires for their genuine flourishing. The child in those moments may feel ignored or unloved or unfairly treated, but the parent's silence is not absence. It is a different kind of care, one that the child does not yet have the perspective to understand. You are not forgotten in your waiting. You are not less worthy of care because your timeline has been different from what you hoped or from what other people seem to experience. Your story is not moving on a random timeline of cosmic indifference. There is care available to you even in the seasons of silence, even in the chapters of apparent unanswered prayer, even in the stretches of road where the guidance you were hoping for has not yet arrived in the form you were looking for. Keep going. Keep your heart open, even when the silence feels long. Keep reaching even when the response feels delayed. The care that has sustained you through every previous difficult season has not withdrawn from your life now. It is still present. It is still working. It is still ordering things in ways you cannot fully see from your current position inside the unfolding story. Trust that even when trust is the hardest thing your tired heart is being asked to do. Now I want to speak to the way you talk to yourself when nobody else is listening, because the conversation happening inside your own head is one of the most powerful and most underestimated forces shaping your daily experience. Most people are significantly harsher toward themselves in their private inner dialogue than they would ever dream of being toward another person they cared about. The standards you apply to yourself in the privacy of your own thoughts are frequently impossible standards that you would never dream of applying to someone you loved. When a friend makes a mistake, you find compassion for them. You remind them that everyone fails sometimes. You point out what is still good about them. You encourage them to keep going without treating the failure as permanent or defining. But when you make the same kind of mistake, the inner voice is often merciless. It calls you names. It replays the failure repeatedly. It compares you to everyone who apparently does better. It constructs elaborate arguments for why this specific failure proves something deeply and permanently wrong about your character or your worth or your future. That voice is not honest. It is not the voice of truth or wisdom or healthy self-awareness. It is the voice of every harsh judgment you ever received from outside yourself that eventually migrated inward and took up residence as your own inner critic. It speaks in the language of the people and experiences that wounded you most deeply. And because it sounds like it is coming from inside you, You often accept it as more trustworthy than it deserves to be. Begin paying attention to how you speak to yourself on the difficult days. Begin noticing the specific words your inner critic uses and asking honestly whether you would say those same words to someone you genuinely loved who was going through exactly what you are going through. If the answer is no, and it almost always will be, then begin the practice of redirecting, not with false positivity or empty affirmations that your deeper self does not believe, but with the honest compassion you would genuinely offer to another person in your position. This is not easy work. It requires consistent attention and genuine effort over time, but it is some of the most important work your heart can do, because the voice that speaks to you most constantly and most intimately about who you are and what you deserve and what is possible for you is your own inner voice. And when that voice is consistently harsh and critical and hopeless, it quietly shapes everything. It shapes what risks you take. It shapes what care you allow yourself to receive. It shapes what futures you believe are genuinely available to you. And it shapes how much peace you are able to experience, even when circumstances around you are actually okay. You deserve to be spoken to with kindness, my dear child, even by yourself, especially by yourself. Now let us talk about hope. Not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances going right before it shows up. Not the kind that visits during good seasons and disappears the moment difficulty returns. I want to talk about the deeper kind of hope that is less about optimism and more about a fundamental orientation of the heart. A choice that is made not because everything appears to be working out, but because something deep inside refuses to accept that this difficult chapter is the final word on your story. Many people confuse hope with certainty. They believe that hoping means expecting a specific outcome. So, when the specific outcome they hoped for does not materialize, they conclude that hope itself was foolish. They lower their expectations. They narrow their vision. They decide that hoping too much is simply asking to be disappointed again. And in doing so, they gradually close the door on one of the most powerful forces available to a human heart. But hope at its truest is not the expectation of a specific outcome. It is the refusal to accept that the current difficulty is permanent and all-encompassing. It is the decision to keep one foot moving forward, even when you cannot see exactly where the road leads. It is the quiet stubbornness of a heart that says, even in the middle of genuine darkness, this is not the whole story. This is not the final chapter. Something more is still possible, even if I cannot see exactly what it looks like from here. That kind of hope is an act of genuine courage. It is not the easy optimism of someone whose life has mostly gone according to plan. It is the hard, won determination of someone who has experienced real difficulty and real disappointment and real pain and has decided, in spite of all of that, to keep moving toward better rather than settling into worse as a permanent address. You have had that kind of hope inside you even in the seasons when you were most convinced you had lost it entirely, because you are still here. You are still searching. You are still reaching for something that feels like more than endless survival. And that reaching is hope, even when it does not feel like it, even when it is tired and cautious and careful, and wrapped in the protective layers of someone who has been disappointed before. Do not let your experiences of disappointment become the final argument against hope itself. Let them instead make your hope more honest, more realistic, more deeply rooted than the fragile version that depends on everything going right. Let your hope be the kind that has looked difficulty in the face and kept going anyway. That is the kind that carries real weight and real power and real capacity to move your life in directions that circumstances alone could never reach. A single act of kindness can help God's message reach someone who needs hope today. If you feel blessed by this channel, you can stand with us through the PayPal links in the description and pinned comment. Thank you for helping us spread God's love, one soul at a time. Now let us speak about rest, about genuine rest, not the kind that happens when exhaustion finally forces your body to stop, but the deeper kind that comes when your spirit is actually at peace enough to truly receive the restoration it needs. Most tired people do not actually rest, even when they stop moving. They stop physically, but their minds continue racing. Their worries continue circulating. Their anxiety continues generating an endless stream of concerns and calculations and rehearsals of future problems. Their body stops, but their inner world remains in full and exhausting motion. Real rest requires more than stopping. It requires a quality of inner stillness that does not come automatically simply because you have sat down or closed your eyes or finished your responsibilities for the day. Real rest requires that you allow your inner world to genuinely quiet, that you stop holding every worry tightly enough to examine it, that you release for a period of time the constant pressure to be solving and planning and managing and controlling, and instead allow yourself to simply be present without an agenda. That kind of rest is not laziness. It is not irresponsibility. It is not the luxury of people with easier lives than yours. It is a genuine human need that is as important to your functioning and your well-being and your capacity to keep going as food and water and sleep. And the fact that you have been treating it as optional, as something you will allow yourself when everything else has been handled, is one of the reasons your spirit has become so profoundly depleted. Begin building small and intentional spaces of genuine stillness into your daily life, not hours of meditation if that feels unrealistic. Begin smaller than that. Begin with 5 minutes of actual quiet where you are not consuming anything and not producing anything and not managing anything. Just sitting, just breathing, just being present without an agenda. Those small spaces, practiced consistently, begin to change something over time in the quality of your daily inner experience. They begin to create a different relationship between your spirit and the relentless pressure that has been your constant companion for so long. You were created with a capacity for rest that is as real and as important as your capacity for work. Honor that capacity. Begin treating your rest as the serious and necessary thing it actually is, rather than the guilty indulgence it has felt like for far too long. Now let us talk about the relationships in your life and what your heart actually needs from them versus what you have been settling for or avoiding because the honest conversation about needs felt too vulnerable or too complicated or too likely to end in disappointment. Because one of the most painful aspects of the kind of loneliness we discussed earlier is that it often exists inside relationships that should theoretically be providing the connection and understanding and genuine support that your heart is craving. You may be in relationships right now, friendships, family connections, romantic partnerships, that look adequate or even good from the outside, but feel somehow hollow or insufficient on the inside. Relationships where you talk often, but rarely say anything truly honest. Relationships where you are present physically, but emotionally held at a careful distance. Relationships where you give generously, but rarely receive in the same measure. Relationships where you feel like your deeper needs go consistently unmet, not necessarily because the other person is unkind, but because you have never fully and honestly communicated what you actually need. And so you continue carrying unmet needs in silence, telling yourself that wanting more is asking too much, that other people cannot be expected to give what you need. If you never clearly express what you need, That real relationship always involves a certain level of loneliness that must simply be accepted as normal. But that is not entirely true. And the part of you that knows it is not entirely true is the part that keeps feeling the ache of insufficient connection, even inside relationships that should be providing more. You cannot receive what you never ask for. You cannot experience genuine connection in relationships where you are not genuinely present. And you cannot be genuinely present in relationships where the truest parts of yourself remain, carefully hidden behind emotional management and careful presentation. Something needs to change, not in other people, but in the level of honesty and openness and genuine communication you are willing to bring to your most important relationships. This does not mean sharing everything with everyone. It does not mean removing all discernment about what is safe to share and with whom. But it does mean choosing at least one or two relationships in your life where you commit to a higher level of honest presence than you have been allowing yourself, where you practice saying the more honest thing instead of the safer thing, where you allow yourself to express a genuine need without immediately apologizing for having it, where you let yourself be known in the more complete way your heart is longing to be known. That kind of relational honesty is risky. I will not pretend otherwise. It requires vulnerability in a heart that has learned to keep itself protected. But the alternative, continuing to live inside the loneliness of being consistently present but never truly known, is a cost that your spirit can no longer afford to keep paying without significant consequences to your peace and your joy and your sense of genuine belonging in your own life. Take a moment now and think about who in your life might be ready to know you a little more honestly. Think about what one honest conversation might begin to open that years of careful management have kept closed. You do not have to do everything at once. You just have to begin. One honest word in the right direction is already a different world from the silence that has felt safer, but has cost you so much. Now let us talk about purpose, about the deep and specific sense that your life is moving towards something meaningful, that your days are connected to something larger than the immediate management of problems and responsibilities and emotional survival. Because one of the quietest and most persistent sources of inner pain is the sense that your life has lost its sense of direction or meaning, or that perhaps you never fully found what you were created for in the first place. You may look at your days honestly and struggle to identify the thread of purpose running through them. You may feel like you are largely reactive, moving from one demand to the next, handling what presents itself without any strong sense of what you are actually building or moving toward or contributing to in a way that genuinely matters. And that lack of clear purpose can make even a busy life feel strangely empty, like you are filling time with motion and responsibility, without any deep sense of the why underneath it all. But purpose is rarely found through dramatic revelation or sudden clarity that arrives and removes all confusion in a single moment. More often, purpose is discovered slowly through paying careful attention to the things that consistently move something real inside you. The situations where your unique combination of experience and gifts and understanding naturally creates something valuable that could not come from someone else in exactly the same way. Your wounds are part of your purpose. The specific pain you have walked through, the particular lessons your suffering taught you, the specific kind of understanding that only comes from having survived what you survived. These things are not separate from your purpose. They are frequently the deepest and most essential parts of it. The person who has walked through specific pain has a capacity to genuinely reach others in that same pain that no amount of theoretical knowledge could ever replicate. Your story, including the hard chapters, is part of what makes you specifically equipped to offer something to the world that nobody else can offer in quite the same way. Stop waiting until your life is neatly organized and your wounds are fully healed and your direction is perfectly clear before you begin looking for ways to contribute something meaningful from exactly where you currently are. Purpose is not something that begins when everything is finally in order. Purpose begins when you start paying attention to where your specific presence and your specific story creates genuine value in the lives of real people around you. The eye that honestly sees what has been difficult, and the eye that honestly sees what has also been beautiful and sustaining and worthy of acknowledgement. You have survived things that have permanently shaped you. That is true and real and worth acknowledging honestly. But you have also been sustained through things that could have finished you and did not. You have also encountered kindness in the middle of seasons that were mostly hard. You have also experienced moments of genuine beauty and connection and meaning even within stretches of difficulty and confusion. You have also grown in ways that suffering uniquely produced, ways that the comfortable seasons of your life could never have generated. None of that minimizes the pain. It simply insists on the complete picture rather than the partial one that fear and exhaustion have been providing. Begin practicing the honest and intentional noticing of what is also true alongside the difficulty. Not to deny the difficulty, but to refuse to let it become the only truth your heart is allowed to see about your life. Start small. Begin by noticing one thing each day that is genuinely good, genuinely sustaining, genuinely worth acknowledging, even if everything else feels hard and uncertain and unresolved. That practice, repeated consistently over time, begins to shift the balance of what your spirit notices and expects and orients toward. It does not eliminate difficulty, but it does begin to change the proportion of your daily inner experience that is dominated by difficulty versus the proportion that is able to recognize and receive the goodness that is also real and also present and also worthy of your attention. You have more to be genuinely grateful for than fear has been allowing you to see. Not because your life has been easy or your pain has been small or your struggles have been trivial, but because alongside all of it, grace has also been present. Care has also been working. Beauty has also been available. And the heart that chooses to notice those things, honestly and intentionally, alongside the honest acknowledgement of what has been hard, that heart is choosing a quality of living that fear and exhaustion can never provide on their own. My dear child, today we have walked through some of the deepest and most honest territory of your interior life together. We have talked about the loneliness that hides inside full-looking lives. We have talked about the comparison that steals your sense of your own worth and progress. We have talked about the depletion that comes from giving endlessly without receiving enough replenishment. We have talked about the silence that tests faith and the inner voice that needs to learn a kinder way of speaking. We have talked about hope and rest in honest relationship and self, forgiveness and trust, and the slow and genuine nature of real change, and the hard, one practice of genuine gratitude. None of these things are simple. None of them resolve overnight. All of them require consistent and honest and gentle attention over time, the kind of attention that your heart deserves and has not always received. But every word spoken honestly between us today is a seed, and seeds, given the right conditions, do what they were created to do. They grow, slowly, patiently, often invisibly for a time, but genuinely and powerfully, and in directions that eventually reach above the surface and become visible in your life and in your spirit and in the quality of your daily experience of being alive. You are worthy of that growth. You are worthy of the peace, that is possible on the other side of the honest work we have been doing together. You are worthy of the life that waits ahead of you in the chapters that have not yet been written. And you are not walking toward those chapters alone. You never were. You never will be. Stay close to hope, my dear child. Stay honest with yourself. Stay gentle with your own heart. Keep going toward the light even when the road feels long and the destination feels uncertain. The care that made you. By supporting this ministry through PayPal, you help keep this mission growing and touching more lives each day. God bless you abundantly, my dear child. If you have stayed with me through every word of this message today, I want you to know something important. You are not here by accident. The fact that these words found you, in this moment, on this specific day, is not coincidence. Something in you needed to hear today that you are not alone in your exhaustion, your fear, your confusion, your wounds, your longing for peace that feels like it keeps arriving just out of reach. Something in you needed permission today to be honest about how tired your heart has truly become. Something in you needed to be reminded today that the fact you are still searching, still hoping, still reaching, still here, is itself a form of extraordinary courage that does not get celebrated enough. You have survived things that would have finished many people. You have carried weight that was genuinely too heavy. You have kept going through seasons when stopping would have been the easier choice. You have loved people even after being hurt. You have hoped again even after being disappointed. You have reached toward healing even while still carrying wounds. And none of that is small. None of that is ordinary. All of that is the quiet and remarkable proof of a spirit that refuses to be completely finished by any of the hard things life has thrown at it. Today I want to leave you with this truth, and I want you to carry it forward with you into every day that follows this one. The peace you are searching for is not somewhere far ahead of you waiting in a future where everything has finally been resolved, and every wound has been fully healed, and every question has been answered, and every dream has been realized. The peace you are searching for is available to you right now, in the middle of the unresolved, and the unhealed, and the unanswered. If you choose to stop running from it, and simply begin receiving it one moment, and one honest breath at a time, you do not have to be finished healing to experience peace. You do not have to have everything figured out to deserve rest. You do not have to be perfect or strong, or put together to be worthy of gentleness and care. You are worthy of all of those things right now, exactly as you are, in this moment, tired and imperfect and beautiful and still here. Stop waiting for a better version of yourself to arrive before you allow yourself to be loved and held and cared for. That version is not coming before the love. The love is what helps that version arrive. So breathe slowly today. Let your hands open. Let your shoulders drop. Let the walls soften just a little in the spaces where it is safe to let them soften. Let hope come back in, quietly and carefully, and at whatever pace your healing heart can actually receive it. Let yourself believe, even cautiously, that the best of your story has not yet been written. Let yourself believe that the light inside you, that nothing could fully put out, is still burning and still worth protecting, and still capable of leading you forward into seasons of genuine peace and joy and meaning that your tired heart right now can barely imagine. A hopeful heart already. Miracles are real and possible and coming. You are not too far gone. You are not too broken. You are not too tired. You are not too wounded. You are simply a human heart in the middle of a journey that is still unfolding, still being shaped, still moving forward towards something good. And you are not walking that road alone. You never were. You never will be. Keep going, my dear child. Keep going.